We've got two sequoia logs loaded up. We gotta go find that last one. We're gonna convoy out there like we did on the last two. Except I'm bringing the fuel with us this time. This should be good. I need to fuel that Freightliner back up. That log is on this side of the railroad tracks, but it's way on the other end of the map. We're just gonna take that road that's not very good and go right down beside the track. We're just gonna cross the asphalt where the bridge is and just keep going on this old road. I'm just gonna go in high until it stalls. This road does have some deep trenches in it, but I think we can bring that sequoia back this way. That's about all it's got. Let's mark it. That should get us there. This crane is very hard to tow because those anchors keep digging into the dirt and getting hung on everything. It might take a couple tries, but you can run over these dead trees or you can break them. This should be the hardest part. The rest of this road is fairly decent. As we drive out of the swamp, the Azov drives in. The Azov has permanent diff locks. It ain't too bad to tow, but it's a lot slower than this truck wants to go. We're either gonna break this dead tree or drive over it. It's trying to do something. Now we got it. I guess we're gonna have to keep trying. I didn't want to, but I'm gonna have to drop it for a minute. I'm gonna have to pull up and then attach the winch and pull it a little bit. Maybe do that 2 or 3 times. That crane is absolutely a devil to move around. It's always hung in the dirt, hung in the trees, hung in the dead bushes. I swept the swamp with it on the last sequoia log. This time I'm gonna sweep the woods. I'm gonna have to drop it and do it again. That crane has those 4 big anchors hanging out, and they dig into the mud everywhere you go. My winch is pulling it through the mud. The wheels are probably off the ground on that thing. It's just bouncing across the top of the dirt. I've ran out of winch. I need to drop forward and do it again. We must be digging trenches out on each side of that road. That service trailer isn't making this easier. I went too far, that winch won't reach. We're gonna be sweeping that dead tree with it. This part was rougher than the swamp. I'm pretty sure this is the hardest part though. Drove forward too far again. I don't think I'll be using the Azov for a crane anymore anytime soon. After I finish this contract with it, I'll probably just leave it right there at the train station. I think it's pretty much downhill from here. I could probably do better by driving them one at a time. It wasn't ready for high gear. We're gonna need some differential locks right here. I'm keeping them warm, but they're not yet hot. I'm gonna cool them in this water hole. Let's see if we can navigate through there with that crane. This thing is like a plow. It's low to the ground and these anchors drag on everything. It does great until you start driving up the middle of a valley and those anchors start touching and the wheels don't. If the rest of this road is as good as that part was, we're okay. Oh, that was vicious. I didn't swing it wide enough. I'm just going to leave this truck sitting here and take that crane on out there. Oops, I didn't mean to hit that. This looks like a straight enough road to tow on. I've almost used a half tank of fuel. The Freightliner is a whole lot faster than that Azov. It pulls the Freightliner back, so I'm going to lead with the crane for a while. I may be able to get this thing into high gear while I'm towing with it, but I almost doubt it. It's not going to allow the Freightliner to use diff locks. Probably not all-wheel drive either, but it doesn't really matter. This thing has a pretty decent towing ability. This is a crazy looking bridge. It did okay, but I don't think I'll be able to get this into high. Here's the log station. We're gonna have to split up here. I'll take them one at a time from this point. I guess I'll take this one down there first. Okay, I'm just gonna take the crane down. This road has some big trenches in it. I don't want to shift out of high, so I'm gonna try to dig through. I think I made a bad decision. It's buried up to the axles. Those anchors didn't help the matter any. I think right now there's more anchor touching than there are wheels touching. This Azov is an awesome truck, but it makes a terrible crane. It sits way too low. Whoever lives out here probably don't get many visitors. I see a stump. We're gonna have to maneuver around that thing. I don't think anyone's living here. There are giant holes in the roof and windows missing. This section would be a little rough to pull a sequoia log across. Here's another bridge with the centerpiece missing. And there's our sequoia log. I'll just park it here on the edge of the crater and go grab that Freightliner. This should be good. It's getting dark, so I'm going to change the time, and I'm going to mark it too. I'm not taking the same exact path that I took with the other. I may take the path coming back that the train took going out there. So going this way, I'll be pointed in the right direction. So far, so good. I don't even know what to say about that. I'm gonna have to bring the crane over here and rescue it. These tiny little bridges are terrible. Look at that bridge. It's only 2 boards. I'm definitely not bringing the sequoia log this way. I'm just going to let it go right there and try to roll it back over. I'll have to bump it a time or two, but I can roll it over. One more bump might flip it on over. There we go. I don't know how it didn't flip on over, but I'll allow it. It looks stable now. I can hook a winch from the side of it to the Azov and drive on out. Now I've got to move the Azov out of the way. This should be a challenge. This is going to be a slow turnaround. There's not much room for error. That sure is a tight fit. I need to turn this machine around. I'm just going to leave it right here for a minute. Now we have to get that trailer back. I guess I need to back up on that bridge. It's difficult to get lined up on such a narrow piece of land. Let's tip it back over on its wheel. I think we can put the anchor down right here. Let's get this thing over there where that log is. They call this a bridge. I call it two boards. This is where we need to be with it. It might be hard to turn this thing around. So far, so good. I think we can load it from right here. That's in there. Let's get it packed and get on the road. I'd better top off on fuel first. Now we can get on the road. Here we go across the bridge. It looks fairly straight. I think we did it. I'm not going over that rough spot there. I'm going to take a left here and make a detour. I'm just going to mark it. That should get us there. This road has a deep hole in it. We're going to need some differential locks. It's struggling for traction. It's moving really slow. I'm just going to have to pull it with a crane. I could have sat there for a whole lot longer, wiggling my tires left and right, and it would have probably went up, but we don't have much time for that. We're just going to pull it. I'm going to grab our service trailer. Both of these trucks have to be at the same place at the same time anyway, so this truck can help. Those sequoia logs are gigantic, and we brought one across this wooden bridge. At least we didn't take it across that bridge that was only 2 boards. This bridge is pretty close to two boards, but it's not as dinky as that other one was. The other one might have collapsed with us. This truck does a whole lot better without having those anchors. I really should have brought a taller truck for the crane. The bore would have been perfect for that. At least we used the bore to pull this thing back out with. It looks like it sunk up to the axles. It was a bad choice to use this one as the crane. It's a short truck and it has those anchors digging in like a plow all the time. Well, this truck has 10 axles that are permanently diff locked and it's all-wheel drive. It won't have any trouble at all pulling it out. I'm just going to make sure I'm in the driver's seat when it happens. It must be completely buried. I think it's loose. I'm going to move that crane up the road a little ways. I'm not going to try to tow that truck that has a sequoia log. This area could flip an empty truck when you're towing. I'll just wait right here with this truck. We're out of the rough part. This is one heavy log, but this old Freightliner handles it elegantly. This is a smooth truck. It doesn't really use much fuel either. This area is really tippy looking. It didn't have enough power for low plus. I'm gonna have to give it a pass though, considering how heavy that log is. The F750. I'm gonna see how much fuel's in that tank. Just enough. I need to drive forward a little bit more. I gotta get that thing lined up. We can pull it till we hit a tree or a pole with it. I'm gonna slam it up into high gear. It's hard to handle. Here comes another one of those crazy wooden bridges. That was crazy looking. It would be pretty bad to flip over both of my trucks trying to cross one of those wooden bridges. It stalled. I'm gonna have to change the time. It's trying to get dark on us. That looks better. These roads aren't too bad. We're just going uphill and it can't do it in high. It probably has a whole lot to do with towing. If I wasn't towing the crane, I could have probably came all the way up that hill and high. I don't know if we should try to cut the corner while towing. It looks wide enough. I think it might work on this curve. Beautiful. If the anchor don't snag this little tree, we'll be okay. I didn't swing it wide enough the last time. This is the one that caught us. This truck seems to drive a whole lot better with a load than it does empty. Probably because it's such a light truck and the load holds it down. The suspension is just tuned more for having a load than not. I have to say the Freightliner is a good truck. I'm gonna have to drive through this section one at a time because it's too rough for towing. Goodness, this is rough looking. This is that shortcut that runs parallel with the railroad tracks. We might wait here at the intersection for the crane. We'll park right in the middle of the road. Let's get these anchors plowing. Too soon for high gear. I could just chug through here in high gear if I could have gotten it in. We don't have far to go now. I'm just gonna top this off. Going down this hill shouldn't be as rough as it was coming up. We've already raked out all of the dead trees that were getting hung up in the anchor. There was a giant dead tree right here on the way up. The asphalt isn't very far from this mud hole. We're almost to the railway station. Everything still looks good. There's the asphalt. I'm not trying to cut that curve, Towing. This is where we need to be. Let's anchor down and get it in. That's all of those sequoia logs. Contract completed. Fallen Titan. Great, now these trees will be put to use, all thanks to you.